Peter White, welcome to the podcast, mate. Our first one, Broker Podcast.
Hey, thanks very much.
Peter, you're the Managing Director of the FBAA. I've often wondered what FBAA stands for, by the way. Is it Finance Brokers Australia or something like that? What does it mean?
Yeah, very close. Finance Brokers Association of Australia.
Of Australia, yeah. And
that's for a mouthful.
It is. And your membership, mate, how many, what are we talking about?
We've just kicked through 9,400 brokers.
Right, okay. That's a lot. Given I once was told by Treasury that there's something like 17,000 brokers in Australia.
Yeah, we've just done a resizing piece. We've just finished doing a whole lot of research. The latest mark is 19,683, but that includes people that don't write a lot of loans. So, you could segment that back a bit and say that those that aren't particularly active will pull that number down to about 17,000.
17,000. That's a fairly significant number. Why are we doing this podcast? And I'm really appreciative of you offering your time. Is that we want to talk to brokers generally, young and old. We want to be able to bring to the whole cohort of brokers, and the whole 19,000 of them, or at least on this occasion, every one of your members, valuable information about how to do well as a broker, what the broker industry looks like for the future. But I also want to be able to do inspirational stuff, talk to young people as to why they maybe want to consider brokering as a career. I mean, I have a son who's got a university degree. He found it in commerce. He found it difficult to get a job, because in the old days, if you had a commerce degree, you got a job straight away. These days, it doesn't mean anything. He became a broker, and he works for one of our branches, and he's really loving it. He works with Rogan Yates in our city branch here, and he's really enjoying it. He loves it, not only the environment, but he actually loves helping people out and helping them get loans. And so I just thought, today to talk to you, one is maybe ask you, why do you think it's a good career, and what's been good for you in this whole environment? Because I know you. By the way, I should tell everyone, Peter and I go back a long, long, long way. Peter and I were involved in Wizard many, 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 many years ago. So like 20 odd years ago. So probably 20 years ago, something like that. But Pete, what do you think about broking as a business, and what's the future hold?
Mark, I think one of the great things about broking is you're helping people fulfill their dreams. So like even simply as a car loan, if you're doing that just to stand alone, somebody's buying a car, it's an emotional experience. But more so with the home, it's the most expensive asset acquisition that most people will buy, and there's a lot of emotion that sits behind it. And when you can be a part of that journey and that excitement to help people actually fulfill that dream that they've been hoping to succeed in, and it's not an easy path. This isn't a straight line from apply for a loan and get settlement. You get people along that journey and make it a really great experience. It's very rewarding, very rewarding.
It's interesting. I have a guy that's been working for me up at my farm for a long, long time. He's an electrician, very capable electrician, works on his own, and always been fantastic. If typical in a farm environment, like you have electrical storm and everything goes down, you always, and the dude always just turns up, no matter what. Yeah. And I'm never there, so I can ring him remotely because, someone will ring me and say that something's gone wrong. And he just never lets me down. Anyway, under the guise of a permit, I had a permit. I was at my farm more recently, and I was talking to the electrician dude, and he said to me, Mark, I'm thinking about getting a home loan. And I said, oh yeah. And he said, but I'm a bit nervous. He said, because I've never had a home loan. He said, I've always lived with my family, my parents. He's 55 years of age. He's got a good business, but never bought a property. But he went through this process saying, but like my parents I don't want to be completely reliant upon my parents. My parents are going to die one day. And I just want to make sure I got myself a property. He had some money saved, etc. And he said, but I don't think I'll ever get a loan at 55. Yeah. And I said, well, I actually don't know what the rules are in relation to that particular individual, or that age group, or that cohort. And so I put him in contact with one of our branches, and he got a loan. And you know what? He was so excited, and by the way, so grateful. The person who did it probably would have done it for nothing, just for the gratitude that the electrician guy showed. We made his life. and he now has he got a pre-approval, so he now has the ability to go out and bid for something or buy something. Is that something that you get feedback from and you have experienced in your life? I mean, and how fulfilling is that for us?
Yeah, it's big time. And you may recall, like, I've run a couple of my own brokerages, and I've done home loans myself at 1 a.m. in the morning. And it's the most rewarding thing ever. Personal satisfaction and fulfillment just goes off the dial, especially when, and same in your example, but when you see how people actually wind up feeling themselves, that experience that they sort of, I guess a lot of people go into it thinking this isn't going to work out for me, or this is going to be hard. Like it's not going to be such a rewarding experience it is, and they get overwhelmed with emotion when that actually happens. And we see it through members and people that I'm in contact right around the country with their testimonies that they get from their borrowers and the clients that they've helped, and how grateful they are and how happy they are. It's just a really, really rewarding thing, and you can't actually put a dollar to that. It's not I know we've all got to have a financial return. It's very important. We've all got to put bread and butter on our table and feed our families, all that sort of stuff. But that's personal fulfillment. And I think that it's something as I get older in life that actually has even stronger meaning. And it's something that I think when you first start off, you sort of don't really understand, but you all of a sudden gain this incredible appreciation as to how people feel for what you've actually assisted them to achieve.
And the FBAA, there's just two associations for brokers. There's MFAA and the FBAA. Now let's just look at the FBAA. I, pre-COVID, have and during the more recent break, have the opportunity. You were there to go to events that my business organises for, and this organises. Everyone does this. Organise for brokers in our brokerage group to all get together and hang out. But they also get an opportunity to talk to bankers, people like yourself. There's presentations, there's learning units, etc. There's a whole lot of stuff that goes on. But one of the things I notice is if once you're a broker and you attend these things and you spend a bit of time on this, there's an amazing camaraderie between brokers. And it is something worth belonging to. And the FBAA as well as MFAA, but the FBAA is part of this process of building this sense of belonging. Maybe you could explain, that's part of your job. Maybe you could explain what the FBAA is trying to achieve in terms of building this community of people.
Yeah. As you call it community, I always talk about our industry family. And I treat it like a family. So when I speak to people, when I interact with them, when we do things, and even with our suppliers, Mark, that people who provide services to FBAA, we treat them as a part of becoming our family. And it's all for the long haul. It's not a short play on anything. And we take that philosophical approach to everything that we do. So whether it be marketing, branding, whether it be professional development days, whether it be things like this or podcasts, webinars, we take a different approach to things that is more family based. In the good old days, Mark, you remember I was always in a tie. Never wear a tie these days.
Same.
In actual fact, you rarely see me in a suit. But because at the end of the day, it helps to relate to people a lot more than putting some sort of barrier in front of you, whether it be a clothing barrier, whether it be whatever. But I genuinely see this industry as a part of our family, and therefore we have that underlying philosophy in everything that we do. It carries through, and hopefully people see it. We know people do. I mean, I've been the mental health awareness advocate for this industry since 2016. And the amount of people who just reach out to me because they feel that they can, that it's someone they're not threatened by, if I can put it that way, someone they feel that they can share things with that are very, very personal, that really is a family style of conversation, not a stranger's conversation by any means. So we look for that connection in everything we do. It doesn't matter what we touch.
If I become a mortgage broker and it's incumbent upon me to join either MFAA or FBAA or both. What I have to do
either
way. So, but I have to be one or the other. in order to get accreditations, etc. So I can
Yes,
operate in
correct,
the industry.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and the FBAA, when would I turn to the FBAA? I mean, apart from, do I have to pay you every year? It's an annual payment to you guys, and what do I get from it? Why am I doing
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, sure. So, when you look at that, I guess that part of that process, you don't get your accreditations with your lenders without having a professional body membership. So you've sort of got to start that a bit early. There's a couple of little chicken and egg games, but we've enhanced and run our processes via technology these days. So basically, you just type your data in online and off on your email, there's your certificate of accreditation. There is a fee that's paid. It's about, I think it's $465 a year. And it's an annual subscription style basis. But mate, interestingly, the way we've managed the business of the FBAA has meant we've been able to help brokers through, or our members through the COVID period. We haven't reviewed our fees for 3 years, right? We've held them flat because we know people are doing it tough as well. And because of that COVID lockdown, I think I was at your event when it first hit too,
Yep.
down at Byron, and everything stopped cold. So we reduced our expenses. So there was no need just to lift prices. It wasn't something that had to be done, and so we maintained that. And then we looked at how else we could help people. So people can also get a $200 rebate these days as well when they use a platform to pay for their membership fees.
So Pete, what do you? These are meant, these podcasts. I mean, I could talk to you for hours, and I haven't caught up with you for ages because of COVID. But what do you think you would like to say to a potential person, a young member who wants to become a broker or is currently a broker and maybe just doing a little bit tough? Because it's really hard in the first 18 months to build your business. I mean, you got to be really patient as a broker when you kick it off. Then after that, the money starts to flow through because of the style of the way you get paid, the annuity system. What would you say to somebody right now? What would your advice be to a young mid-20s broker who's just joined the industry?
To me, I think one of the keys, Mark, is to have a very, very strong support network and support person, like a mentor. I think the mentoring piece to me is a little bit understated. I see a lot of people saying, "Oh, I'm a mentor on this, that." And yeah, no, you're not. You might be an admin support more so. But the thing that I have found through the years, and respectfully, the things I've learned from yourself when we used to work together, have lived with me through to today. And finding that strong person who you can rely on to cut it to you the right way, but to support you to achieve your goals, is incredibly important. And it shapes who you become. And if you find that at the beginning, and at the beginning of my career, I've been in this industry 43 years now. At the beginning of my career, I didn't have that. I sort of found it, 25% of the way through. But still to this very day, things that I've learned from people I respect from the past assist me to do what I do right now. And that carries you through. So that person, that mentor, and I'm conscious that it has to be someone, or that mentoring piece has to be someone who's very, very strong and can really add value to your journey, and not just somebody who's going to help you get a loan through, is one of the keys to success. Because there's so many things that happen on this road as you travel from early on in your career to where you wind up 20 years or more later, that you don't expect and you won't necessarily know how to handle. So you need that style of person who can help you through that piece and to fulfill the dreams that you're after. Because I tagged a bit earlier, it's not a straight road. It's all sorts of curveballs that get thrown at you on the way through.
That's for sure. And what would you say to your current members who are, been around for a while, and they're sort of looking at their, everybody reassesses the industry they're involved in. What do you think the industry holds for the future? I mean, are we in pretty good hands? Is there anything you're worried about, and are there any opportunity? And what are the opportunities that are available out there right now, or will you see in the future for people involved in the mortgage industry, already involved?
Yeah, I actually think, and I've stated this publicly before, I think the future's looking really good. There's always going to be regulatory challenge. And this is what industry associations do. We take care of the stress, if you like, that happens through regulation and politics and all that sort of stuff. We sort of try and piece that away so you don't have to worry about it. But that's not going to change too much. So there's more regulation to come, and we'll deal with that as it happens. But for somebody practicing as a broker, today we sit around the high 50s as a percentage of market penetration of originated loans through brokers. I see that will hit 70 and above.
Which means that means that what you better explain what that means. But what you mean is that
so 70% of loans, well, at the moment, are around the high 50s as a percentage of loans get written by brokers. Right, not through the banks. Right, I see that go to about 70%. So 70% of all loans will be written by brokers, and I think it can even go further than that as technology develops and drives as we go forward. Other countries are at that mark, and I think that's something that is very viable for our industry from a future growth point of view. And we look about some of the things like the best interest duty, and we sort of go, oh, another piece of bloody regulation, but that actually is a lever for us to take another step, to actually progress what we're doing today in a very positive manner, because we can say, hey, I'm a broker, I'm held to an accountability to you as a person under a best interest duty. Guess what? Your bank's not. Yeah. So it's all of a sudden there's another conversation that we never used to have that now evolves, which steps up. And as we get technology sorted, and there's new regulation being looked at the moment for advancement of digital mortgages, digital signatures, all that sort of stuff to formalise that for the future, that will then help to assist the broking sector to take even more steps forward. So I see there is quite a exciting journey ahead in the coming 10 years. It says, you want to get on this bandwagon. We thought that back in the 90s, but you look at it today and say, no, there's some really interesting things happening now that makes it a really exciting future.
I agree with you, and I think that what I'd like to say in that regard, as being one of the older members of the broking industry, is that
there's left, mate.
There's very, very few, but is to say that to reiterate what you said. I might just use it some different words. The more regulation that gets applied to our industry, it means the more important we've become, because they're not going to regulate us unless they think we're really important. Because we're really important, we can have big effects on the economy, big effects on people's lives. From my point of view, therefore, the regulation should be looking at it. We should look at it as an elevation of our status. So back in the wizard days, a broker was a broker. There was no regulation. You could do whatever you bloody want. And to be honest with you, we were one step away from a car salesman, to be frank with you. And it was Rafferty's rules, and some brokers charged extra money on top of the commission they got paid. It was just like out of control. But today, it is highly regulated. But so are lawyers, so are accountants, so are dentists, so are doctors. They're highly regulated because they have a big status in the economy, and the reason they have a big status is because we have a big effect on what happens in the economy. And as you say, if 70% of all loans, or 50% today, and one day 70% of all loans get originated through a broker, not through a bank, that basically means that we are extraordinarily important to the way this economy rolls, and therefore we would expect to be regulated because we don't want anything to get stuffed up, and therefore see yourself as having high status. And I think that in itself paves the way to be involved in an industry that you can be proud of, an industry that you can hold your head high, an industry, by the way, because we're delivering so much, we can get paid well or properly for, and it's actually an industry you can have a career in and do well out of. And the FBAA, I want to say this now that to everybody, the MFAA and the FBAA are our representation. They're the mob that go and fight for us when we need someone to go and fight for us. And whether it's talking to the Prime Minister or the Treasurer or someone in the state, state government, the Premier or the new Premier, whatever it happens to be, and all the regulatory environments, that's when you turn to an association like the FBAA. So for those who are listening, we need industry associations. And again, our status is big, has been elevated because we have someone like the FBAA, of which you represent. Otherwise, if we didn't have an FBAA, which we didn't have, by the way, 25 years ago, but all of a sudden when these things arise, it means that we're getting more status. And so that's the way we look at it. Don't be looking and saying, shit, I'm sick of all the regulatory stuff. It happens, but you want to have status, you're going to be regulated. End of story. And
Exactly.
Peter, can I ask you one more question? If I'm looking at maybe making a career in mortgage broking, if I go to the FBAA website, is there something in there that sort of gives me a bit of a guide as to what I should be thinking about, etc.?
Yeah, we do. On our website, we have quite an extensive amount of resource there for people who are looking at entering the industry that gives them a checklist as such, but a guide as to the sort of things you need to look for, the sort of things you've got to consider. There's information there about what sort of costs are involved, and it depends what journey you take as to what that cost looks like. But yeah, I think a lot of people jump into the industry maybe a little bit undercapitalised and think they're going to make $1 million tomorrow and wonder why it doesn't work out, you know. So there's a stack of information on that. We have a stack of information on all the regulatory environments that impact us and the laws and the training piece. Education is a huge focus at the moment and will be going forward in our industry. And it's all about that professional status, Mark, and that importance is how governments and regulators see our sector, that significant level of importance. There's higher standards starting to be pressured on, but everything is there on the website to help people guide that, to make it simple and easy. And again, we do it in that simple, easy style of manner and not try and overcomplicate things that really, in some respects, aren't that complicated. But if you've never done it before, it's always a challenge to follow the journey as to what you need to get done. So all on the website.
Is it fbaa.com.au?
It is.
Okay. So I encourage everyone to go to fbaa.com.au. I encourage everybody to go to as many events that the FBAA and or the MFAA, but the FBAA puts on. And it's important to continue to upskill and to keep learning about our industry, whether you're just joining or whether you've already been in the industry for a long time. We don't know everything. None of us know everything, and we've always got to learn. And part of this podcast actually is to reinitiate everybody back to the FBAA if you're already in the industry, and it's also if you're thinking about going into the industry, that's somewhere you should go to that website. And I want to thank you, Peter, for your dedication. Look, I know a lot of people wouldn't know this, but I know Peter, as he's been in this industry a long time, actually has dedicated his life to finance brokers generally. And as Managing Director of the FBAA, takes this very seriously. And at the end of the day, I know all he wishes for is the best outcome for every single member that he has. In fact, everyone even who's not a member. So, Pete, we want to thank you for your time, effort, commitment, and, by the way, your longevity. And good luck to you, mate. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much, Mark. A great pleasure to be on the podcast with you. Thank you.
Thanks, mate.